Ladies and gentlemen, hello. Good morning to this session of our conference with the title Geopolitics and How They Are Perceived in Romania. We have a very select group of speakers today. We will begin with Ambassador Kamisas, who has served in many critical embassies of Greece, in NATO, in Tunisia, in Washington.
Tunisia not.
Libya. Nicosia in Cyprus, and then has been an ambassador in Bucharest and in Kiev, and at the diplomatic office of the Greek President of the Republic, and has written also 3 very interesting books. The one is about the Greek settlements in North Africa.
The ancient
Greek settlements. Then about Kapodistrias, our first Greek governor, and Metternich, and the different views of Europe back then about the Eastern issue, the Eastern question. And he has also written a book about geopolitical dilemmas in Greece in the beginning of the 20th century. We will then pass on to Mr. Adrian Severin, who has been a Minister of Foreign Affairs of Romania and a member of the European Parliament and a United Nations Special Rapporteur on Human Rights in Belarus. And we will have closing remarks by Mr. Alifieris, who is a civil engineer by training. And I found it very interesting. He has a master's degree in seismology, so we hope your remarks will have tectonic implications. Who is acting Secretary General of the Greek-Romanian Chamber of Commerce. Just, I'm a historian myself. My name is Nikos Megapanos, and 2 sentences about the long history of the Greeks in Romania. We have the first settlement of Greeks in Romania right after the fall of Constantinople in 1453. But the big wave begins in the 18th century with the Phanariots. Continues all the way to the 19th century. I recently dug up 1856 census of 10,000 Greeks residing in Romania, and we were very active in shipping from Sulina, the end of Danube, all the way up to the Iron Gates and even beyond.
Sulina, by the way, is a Greek word.
Yes.
Solina.
Yeah, exactly. It's the
pipe.
The end of the Danube River. It's where the Greeks
at the end of
control the
channel.
The channel and the coming in and out of the Greek ships. There were the pilots there. They were mostly Greeks from Ithaca, as I found in a small research I did during my master's degree. So, without further ado, I will give the floor to Ambassador Kamisas.
Thank you, Mr. Megapanos. Thank you, Dr. Severin, for being with us today. I am George Kamisas, a retired ambassador and the president of the Greek Society for Geographical Studies, Stravon. I would say a few, perhaps fragmentary things about Romania. Historically, it's a country which has been at the point of intersection of 3 empires, the Habsburg, the Tsarist Empire, and of course the Ottoman Empire. And it is indeed, it's a miracle that these Neo-Latin people managed to survive over the centuries under the alien rule, notably of the Ottomans, but also as far as the area west of Carpathians is concerned, under the rule of Austrians and Hungarians. And of course, they have paid a price as the as the Tsarist Empire was venturing to the south. The price is Bessarabia. In case that Trianon Treaty of 1919 is a point of blessure, a point of injury for the Hungarian people, the first treaty of Bucharest, the one that took place 1812, has been for a notable number of Romanians, likewise a trauma that this historically Romanian land, technically at that time part of the Principality of Moldova, has been ceded by the Ottomans, who were the suzerain power, to the Russians. Yet there is a consolation for the Romanian people in the recent times that the major part of that historical region has been formed into mainly Romanian-speaking and having Romanian history Republic of Moldova. Let's go another few interesting points concerning the Romanian people. Romania is what Nicolae Gheorghe, who was partly of Greek origins, Byzance après Byzance. Romania has been for centuries, after the fall of Constantinople, Mr. Megapanos said something about this, the Byzantium after the Byzantium. Many big princely families from Constantinople found refuge in the Romanian lands, and something that is widely unknown or forgotten. This happened before the Phanariots came to Romania. For instance, a major Romanian house was the house of Cantacuzin, Cantacouzinos, and the last indigenous despot, voivode of Romania, was Constantin Brâncoveanu Basarab, whose mother was from the lineage of the Cantacouzinos family. And Cantacuzino had a notable presence in Romania after independence. There have been at least one, perhaps more, prime ministers under the name of Cantacuzino. Now, about the Romanian people, I would perhaps arbitrarily, and Mr. Severin is going to correct me in case he doesn't agree with this, Romanians as a people sympathizing with some of their neighbors, the Serbs, the Greeks, I would say even the Turks, and they feel uneasy for the well-known historical reasons with the Hungarians, and perhaps more so, at least the mainstream of Romanian political class. I don't say if even the people there, I'm not sure, they feel more uneasy with the Russians. Over the last 10 years, Romania has achieved a lot. We Greeks are not very pleased to say, but this is reality, and we have no reason to be not to be pleased that Romania has surpassed Greece in the overall GDP, not in the GDP per capita, but in the overall. They are reckoned to have around 280 billion GDP in euros, while we are still in 230 around, I mean. Nowadays, a lot of energies, not just of Romania, but Romania is a country sharing a border with Ukraine, is absorbed by the Ukrainian war. Romanians try to find an equilibrium in their positioning between the West, and they are a staunchly Western country, at least as far as the political class is concerned. It's a NATO country, it's an EU country, it's a country that has offered bases to the Americans. It's a country that, through Romania is the pipeline, I would say the artery passing of weaponry assistance to the government in Kiev. It's a country that aspires at some point to enter in, not just aspires, struggles intensively to join the Schengen area, but to the best of my knowledge, and Mr. Severin and Mr. Ferry alike perhaps would like to correct me, they not feel uneasy for not being part of the euro area. They have found their equilibrium, and they're well off. They have a very experienced central banker, now for around 25 years, Dr. Muguri Sarescu. And apparently they feel that the equilibrium, the balance of their economy is well served for staying outside the Eurozone. But still they are struggling to join the Schengen area along with the Bulgarians. The relations with Bulgaria traditionally have been just friendly. One has sometimes is under the impression that the one with the other people look back to back, that the Bulgarians look west and south, and Romanians turn their back to Bulgarians. But this might be another wrong impression, a wrong perception, perhaps. Historically, Romanians, to conclude, to complement what I have just said before, they had not been in very friendly terms with Bulgaria. During the First World War, they fought. The Romanians have joined Serbs and Greeks in the Second Balkan War, and where, as everybody knows, Turks as well entered the fray of the Second Balkan War, and they claimed back Adrianople, and Romanians managed to secure for them southern Dobruja. But it's important to say that in the Second Balkan War, Romanians played a Philhellene role, I would say, Greek-friendly role. The then governing elite of Romania was quite tied to the Greeks. At that time, around 60,000 Greeks with or without Greek passport were residing in Romania. And although the 2 decades before, at 2 periods, the diplomatic relations between the 2 countries were severed, which means this happens when we have very good ties. It was more of a, I would say, a family affair, and family members sometimes have disputes stronger than those who do not entertain family ties. And we saw within a few years, when we come in the spring and summer of 1913, Romania was, let's say, quite close to the Greeks. there is no reason to go down to details, but this is reality. The problem of another problem with Romania is how to establish an equilibrium in the Black Sea. They're concerned. They're concerned because of the ramifications of the Ukrainian war, the war in Ukraine. They are afraid because of the incursion of the Russian armies in Ukraine. To no point, I say this provocatively, to no point they have been unlike the Hungarians, having any covert desires on Ukrainian territory, although North Bukovina, with capital Chernovich, or Chernivtsi in Russian, Chernauchi and in Ukrainian, and Chernauchi for the Romanians, is within the Ukrainian administration. The Ukrainians behave and how we say, they follow the orthodoxy, the Western orthodoxy, and they entertain no revisionist dreams vis-à-vis Ukraine. They are rather to the opposite, concerned with the outcome of the Ukraine war, although I have not witnessed the same anguish as the case is with Poles and the Balts, and now the Scandinavians, that after a possible, let's say, victory or non-defeat for the Russians in the Ukrainian battlefield, in the Ukrainian theater war, I have not sensed any anguish vis-à-vis a further Russian expansion in Ukraine, and I found this reasonable and justified. Not to say justified, but I think in my perception this is logical. In any case, but this is another story. Another concern, immediately and technical, not only technical, commercial concern, the Romanians entertain with regard to the Black Sea is the issue of the mines that have been dumped in the waters outside the Ukrainian and the Romanian. They don't many of the mines, and then we have here experts from the Greek Navy, and they know quite well if mines stay afloat in a how we say in a permanent location, or they float according to the whims of the waves. I just saw that a few days ago there has been an agreement signed in Istanbul by Romanian, Bulgarian, and Turkish defense minister to establish a committee to take common action in trying to somehow to locate and take out of the waters any mine, and floating or not floating mines. Another thing that has to do with the Black Sea, and of course it's of concern of Romania, recently has to do with the respect regarding the Montreux Convention. The Montreux Convention guides the regime of the Straits and in a way of the entire Black Sea since it was signed in July or August 1936. The Montreux Convention, as many of you know, has put a plafond in the duration of presence of warships of non-riparian countries within the Black Sea, as well as a plafond in the tonnage and the number of the seats of the vessels there. And this is recently, as by Turkey has been declared the Black Sea war zone, British have tried to force, not to force, but to secure the entry into the Black Sea of two minesweepers, which have been given to the Ukrainian Navy. And Turkey has not consented in this in reference to the clauses of the Montreal Convention, under war conditions. I don't know to what extent this concerns Romania. This is all I would have liked to say about Romania. Just a last point concerning the bilateral relations. Our relations with Romania are excellent. Romania has been the foremost country where around the year 2000, before the Greek crisis, before the Greek debt crisis, we have managed to have a quite significant investment presence in the country. And in those years, the most important Greek investment, let's say, operation was precisely in Romania, when the Greek telecommunication agency, OTE, acquired Rom Telecom for a volume of 400, if I'm not, please Yanni, correct me if I'm wrong, for a volume of 400 million euros. Or it was US dollars. I think euros, because this happened after the year 2000. And we consider Romania a very friendly country. To some extent, our people, not just because of orthodoxy, are quite well connected, and our presence in Romania has historical dimensions, and the Romanian element in Greece, and I mean, of course, the Romanian citizens that came down for employment to Greece is quite important, and I feel that in the future, in particular, taking advantage of the homegrown, as I say, as I pretend rather, trilateral initiative between Romania, Bulgaria, and Greece takes a more important shape. I think the prospects and the horizon for deepening our political, economic, social relations is quite bright. And for the moment, I conclude here, and I will be open to discussion.
Thank you, Ambassador. The floor now is for Dr. Adrian Severin. And we are welcoming.
Yes, may I? So, thank you very much. I hope you can hear me well, and you can see me decently well. I'm very happy to be together with you in spite of these technical difficulties. I'm sorry that I'm not at the topest level of the ID technology, but let's say that it's good that we could overcome it. I would congratulate you, if I may, for the idea of including in this conference a panel or a session dedicated to Romania. I think that Romania is indeed an actor, at least a potentially important actor in our region, which is Eastern, Southeastern Europe, and also in Europe as a whole. Through its relations with the global players, Romania could certainly also play a role within their strategies dedicated to our region. Now, therefore, I think that it is important to look into the concept of Romania as geopolitical actor. And this could be done from a Romanian perspective, certainly, but it could be done as well from the perspective of its neighbors and from the perspective of the other players, European players, global players, because certainly they might have a need in cooperating with Romania for solving or overcoming a number of local, regional, and global problems. I make a distinction from the outset between the objective geopolitical concept of Romania and the subjective geopolitical concept of Romania, because the objective one is the result of its geography, is the result of its culture, and it is a result of its history, while the subjective one is a result of the context, which is fluid, is the result of the balance of powers in the region and in the world, and it is a result of the political variability at the leadership of the country, and certainly the politicians, the governments might indeed use fully the geopolitical objective assets of Romania, or they might simply ignore that in order to please the global players, the major players, which exercise, on the other hand, quite an important pressure on the political leadership of the country. And again, this depends on the quality of this political leadership. The pressures could be there all the time, but the reaction of the political leaders might be different in accordance with their character, in accordance with their capabilities, and so on and so forth. Now, this being said, and I must say that I'm so happy that you dedicate some time to Romania within your proceedings, while in Romania, in our academic institution, diplomatic institution, we do not pay much attention to a updated Romanian geopolitical concept. Now, Romania has been born in order to respond, or in order to let the major players in Europe to promote some of their vital interests. So from the geo-economic point of view, in the 19th century, in the mid-19th century, Romania was one of the most important suppliers of energy, which means oil at that time, crude oil, and food, which means cereals, for the Western European powers. So it was a need of these powers for a Romania which was able to provide them with these crucial merchandises, crucial goods, energy and food. And therefore, it was a necessity to free the trade and the circulation on the river Danube. The river Danube being at that time the most important route of transportations of these goods from a country, from places where Romanians were living. It was at that time the Romanian principalities or the Danubian principalities and the rest of Europe. This was one of the very important goals and interests of the Western European powers. The second one was geopolitical, not geo-economic, and this was the interest to put obstacle against the expansion of the Russian Empire. So Romania was conceived in the very beginning, and it was born as a state to oppose the Russian expansion in Europe. In 1856, before the Romanian state was officially and formally born, the Congress of Paris transferred the territories, the lands which were bordering the mouth of the Danube to Moldavian principalities, which in few years became a part of the Romanian principality. So in order to make sure that the Russians are not touching any longer the mouth of the Danube, so they could not raise some kind of request concerning the trade and circulation on Danube. later when Romania was, so it is important to understand, bearing in mind these two things, that Romania was born in response, or was held to be born in response of the basic interest, vital interest of the Western European powers, and its role was to be there at the mouth of the Danube and on the Danube, strong enough power in order to defend those Western interests. Therefore, one of the names given to Romania, or the qualification given to Romania, was that of a Danubian state. So initially, Romania was regarded as a Danubian state. From a geographic, so this is geoeconomy, geopolitics in the beginning. From the geographical point of view, one has to say that Romania technically does not belong to the Balkans. The Balkans is an area which stands south, which is South Danubian. On the other hand, Romania was culturally very much involved in everything which was related to the Balkan policy, economy, and reality. And it was already mentioned the fact that some of our scholars, and not only our scholars, even somebody or even ordinary Romanians, have the feeling that the Romanian principalities, which became later by unification Romania, are the heirs of Byzantium, Byzantium after Byzantium. So why that? Why is that? Not only because we kept the Orthodox religion denomination, Christian Orthodox denomination, but also because we kept our autonomy. By we, I understand the Romanian principalities, Wallachia and Moldavia, before they unified to form the Romanian state. So the modern Romanian state. So along that way, Romania was considered to be a Balkan state, even if, strictly speaking, geographically, it was not a Balkan state. At the same time, many thought, even in our mythology, let's say Romanian mythology, that we were the front-line country against the Ottoman expansion, against the Russian expansion, against whatever expansion, Austro-Hungarian expansion. In fact, Romania is not a front-line country, is a flank country, because all the lines, all the routes of the invasions from the west towards the east, from the north towards the south of Europe, are not crossing Romania, since Romania in the middle of the, since Romania was a state built on the Carpathians mountains. So the circle, the ring of Carpathians finds itself in the middle of the country. Whoever wants to cross the country has to cross at least twice the Carpathian mountains, which is plus in the south the Danube River. So it's quite difficult. Therefore, Romania was always a flank state, and from that point of view, everybody dealing with Romania in the old times and in the recent times did not have the interest to occupy Romania, to administrate Romania, but to keep it under control, or to use it in order to attack the flank of the enemy. So to keep under control in order to defend its flanks, or to keep it under control in order to use it to attack on the flanks of their enemy. I would go further, and I would say that at the beginning of the First World War, we had a dilemma: with whom should we go in that war? With the Entente or with Russian, French, British alliance, or with Central Powers, the German, Austrian. So there are a lot of discussions and stories about that. But basically, the most rational, not the emotional decision, was based on the question regarding the geopolitical identity of the country. Are we a Southeastern European country, a Danubian country, and therefore we need to hold the mouth of the Danube and so on, or are we a Central European country? And if they were a Central European country, we had to control not the Danube so much, but the Carpathians. And the control of Carpathians meant the integration of Transylvania, which was certainly also inhabited by a Romanian majority. So the decision which has been taken, it was a political decision. It was not a romantic decision, and that decision had to be to meet also the interest of the European powers, and especially the interest of the victorious European powers, not the losers, but the winners in the war. So we didn't know beforehand who is going to be the winner, but we have chosen our identity, our geopolitical identity as a Central European country, a Carpathian country. We became more Carpathian than Danubian, more Central European than Pontic, than Black Sea country. So the result was that we started to have more difficult relations, not only with Russians, but also with Hungarians. And the ambassador mentioned it without giving this explanation, since we, on the one hand, we are an southeastern European player, on the other hand, a Central European player. So for more than 1 century, the foreign policy and the geopolitical concept of Romania were dominated by the two fears, the fear of Russians and the fear of Hungarians. And this was very bad. And we have to get rid of these fears. And my plea is that we have to get rid of these fears, because fear is not a good advisor. And whenever we made this geopolitical decision guided by the two fears I have mentioned, these decisions were not the best one, not the best decision, and they provided us to have the profit, to have the gain of all opportunities, all the regional opportunities. I will come quickly back to my at least foreign policy doctrine, and I will show you that my plea is indeed for a very important strategic partnership with Hungary and very strong cooperative relations with Russia, because we have to get rid of these fears. Well, so this was a dilemma. As I said, after our choice, we became a Central European country from the geopolitical point of view. What I should also add is that before the First World War, we had, as you very well know, the two Balkan Wars. Romania showed its potential on that occasion, showed its potential to play a decisive role as far as the geopolitical structures of Southeastern Europe or the Balkans is concerned. Those wars ended by the Bucharest peace, so the peace conference in Bucharest, where Romania was trying to play the role of, let's say, a honest broker, or whatever you call it. Anyhow, it was decisive in structuring the balance of powers in Southeastern Europe, in the Balkans, that was against or without the consent of the great European powers. The Bucharest peace was not at all nice or nicely seen by the Western or by any important European power at that time. I would add that in the end, but from my point of view at least, the Bucharest peace was one of the most of the finest day of the Romanians' history. Another finest day of the Romanian history was the occupation of Budapest in 1919. This was not. This didn't have any ethnic reasoning, rationale. It was a geopolitical rationale. During those days, in Budapest, the political powers was captured by Bela Kun's Bolshevik regime, which was supported and backed from Russia, from Bolshevik Russia, while the Western powers, Central European and West European powers, were simply unable to do anything. They were faced by their internal turmoils. They were faced by their shortcomings and hardships, which were connected with the war itself, and which ended leaving everybody in a very bad shape. And Romania, without the approval of the European powers, without their consent, decided to go there and to stop the Bolshevism to infect the rest of Europe. So, due to this action, Romania showed that it is able to stabilize the political developments in the various kind of turmoils in the middle of Europe. So what do I mention that? Because this speaks about the potential of Romania of playing an important geopolitical role both in the southeastern Europe and in Central Europe. I must add also the fact that between the two world wars, Romania was extremely active in a negotiation of the Montreux Convention. It was one of those who defended the principle of the Black Sea, the Black as a sea of its riparians. And this was very important. So from that point of view, Romania became, all in all, a Carpato-Danubian Pontic state. These are the three dimensions of its geostrategic, geopolitical identity. You know very well what happened in the second. I wanted to say that within this context, Romania, the so-called Great Romania, and the Romania after the Second World War, has developed two other fears. So I have already mentioned the fear of Russia, fear of Hungary. The two other fears were fears of isolation and the fear of domination. So Romania didn't want to be isolated, to stay isolated, because when being isolated, it was not able to defend itself properly. On the other hand, Romania was always afraid of the domination coming not only from its enemies, but also the domination coming from its friends, so allies. Once I have noticed in a discussion with my former colleague Evgeny Primakov, who was a foreign minister and prime minister of Russia, that the most bad feelings of Romanians about Russian dates are rooted not in the times when we were enemies, and certainly we had to accept that we were defeated in the war, but they have origin in those times when we are allies and we felt betrayed by Russians who tried to take advantage of the context in order to get some advantages, to get something from Romania against our will. So again, I would say fear.
Dr. Severin,
Yes.
Can you hear me? I'm sorry to interrupt your thoughts, but we have to disconnect for very briefly and reopen the connection because we ran out of time.
Out of connection time.
Yeah, the connection time is running out. So we will disconnect now and reconnect momentarily.
We'll send you a new link.
Okay.
Θα κλείσει. Άμα κλείσει την ώρα που μιλάει είναι χειρότερο.
Ωραία, κλείστε το και
σταματήστε καταρχήν το stream για.
Πηγαίνετε εσείς.
Όταν λέω το σταματήστε, θα σταματήσετε την εκπομπή αυτό. Αφού δεν θα πάρουμε τώρα κάτι.
Ο κύριος είναι εκτός ρεθμάνης.
Ωραία. Θα φτιάξουμε καινούργια σύνδεση.
Εδώ είστε το λόγο τουλάχιστον στον άλλο κύριο, να μην κάνουμε αυτή τη γυλιά τώρα.
Όχι, μάλλον ξέρεις, πρέπει να ακούγεται. Θα κλείσει το...
Τώρα με το κάνουμε γρήγορα, στο 2 λεπτά δεν κάνουμε πάλι. Να ξεκουραστεί και αυτός.
Όχι σήμερα, κύριε Πρέσβη. Όχι, θα διαβάζει. Ναι. Την Παρασκευή έστειλε γραπτό κείμενο, το οποίο ήταν 2 μέρες πριν.
Δεν είναι το κείμενο.
Μια χαρά είναι. Λέει, έχει ιδέες όμως. Δόναλης και Τσιος Πόντος, Πόντι.
Άρα δική μας. Είναι υποστηριχτής της γραμμής. Δεν θέλει να ακούει για Αμερικανία. Οι Αμερικανοί δεν πήγανε στο δικείο. Να κάνω τον άξονα της Αλεξανδρούπολης προς τα πάνω, να μπορέσουμε να τον
Δεν αξιοποιήσουμε. Αν δεν είναι Αμερικάνοι, κάνουν τον δρόμο τώρα. Έτσι, ναι, διότι οι Ευρωπαίοι, οι Αμερικάνοι δεν το λες και οι Ευρωπαίοι δίνουν τα λεφτά. Έτσι είναι, το δέχομαι.
Κύριε Πρέσβη,
τότε ήταν αντίπεινα στα χωριά.
καλά, στην κατηγορία.
Γιατί τι είπα.
Okay. 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 I hope you took the breath. So, may I continue? May I go on?
Yes, please go on.
Do you see?
I can hear you.
Do you see me?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So you could always already notice from what I have said until now that to a certain extent, to a very important extent, to a major extent, Romania is a political project, was a political project. So, and it is a product of a political vision. The question is, why was that political project so successful? Because Romania stood as a united country without, in spite of the fact, or despite the fact that attacks and the desires which are still actual, and I stress that they are still actual, to dismantle, to fragmentate Romania. We had one of the very last attempts to dismantle Romania in 1990, in March 1990, when it was an attempt to detach Transylvania from Romania, and there were some kind of upheavals, so-called nationalistic upheavals in Transylvania. So, what could explain the success of such a political project? And the success of the political project could be explained by the strong cultural basis. By the strong cultural basis of this country. And the two pillars of this building, of this political building, were the language, the common language, and the common religion. Romanian language has no dialects. The Romanian shepherds, the old shepherds, they crossed the mountains and stopped to the rivers with their sheep, and they brought with them a common language. While, do you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Do you hear? Yes. Okay. And at the same time, Romanians were able to have a single religion, which, interestingly enough, was not the product of a political decision as it was in many other countries, but came from inside the society. So therefore, I believe this political project stood. At the same time, this explains the character of the Romanian nationalism. This is a geostrategic nationalism and not an ethnic nationalism. Romanians never considered themselves superior to the other races or whatever ethno-cultural communities. They were simply looking for securing their places, their countries, their lives. And this also explains something which is crucial for nowadays: their capacity to integrate in transnational buildings like the European Union, for instance. And they do that, and they accept, the transformation asked by these processes, simply because in the end they never abandon their identity. So they are so flexible at surface because in substance they remain extremely conservative. So they are very liberal, if you want, at the surface, but very adaptable. But in the depths, they are very, very conservative. So these are my general explanation about our geopolitical concepts. Certainly, during the Cold War, the invented national communism was the one who, in fact, has driven our foreign policy. And after the Cold War, Romania has to adapt itself to the unipolar global order, which we might call Pax Americana, but it didn't do it gladly, because we remain attached to the idea of a multipolar international order. Multipolarity was always crucial for the benefit of Romania. All our history developed as it developed successfully in the end within a multipolar system. Ambassador mentions the three empires which crossed or met around the borders of Romania, and therefore Romania was supported to become stronger in order to keep these powers, these empires separated. So therefore we believe that even now we have the same aspirations and the same interest. I would, if you give me some 3 minutes more, I would just very quickly.
Yes, please. Let's try, and because we were late in beginning, we are now a little bit pressed with time. But you have 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you. So I just I'm not going to explain you or to describe the phases of the Romanian foreign policy from 1990 to 2023, because we passed from one phase to another. Unfortunately, they were towards not more an independent foreign policy, not towards the usage of our natural assets, not natural geopolitical assets, but more to align our policy to the policy of the great powers or to the great players, mainly in the end the United States of America. But I'm just wanting very quickly to make few points on the foreign policy doctrine of Romania, which has been developed in 1996, 1997. And this was the doctrine of three concentric circles, which were the three concentric neighbors, regional powers, global powers. The basic elements of these three circles doctrine were the following. Number one, the reconciliation strategy. That was linked to the internal reconciliation. It was an inter-ethnic reconciliation, very important in terms of the relations between Romanians and the other minority communities, mainly the Hungarians. Interconfessional, I don't want to enter in this detail. Historical, between republic and monarchy. I think we did it better than the Greeks have done, this reconciliation. And the international reconciliation, namely with our neighbors. The second point and principle was a strategy of building strategic partnership in bilateral, trilateral, or quadrilateral format with the states in the immediate or close neighborhood. And I have in mind Poland, Ukraine. We don't have time to describe. I was ready to describe all these relations with their peculiarities. Republic of Moldova, Hungary, Austria, Bulgaria, Greece, Turkey, Croatia, Serbia, Slovakia. These were countries with which we have achieved a number of trilateral and bilateral and multilateral partnerships. Why did we do that? In order to get the ability to obtain security outside alliances with regional and global powers. So we saw that even without the alliances with the global powers, we, the neighbors I have mentioned, have to be able to obtain security. Two, to obtain the ability to provide security to regional and global neighbors under condition of advantageous reciprocity. So we should not be dependent on them for our security. On the contrary, we should provide them with some security. Three, the ability to negotiate with regional and global powers from position of superior strength and efficiency. Our integration into the security structure created by them. And lastly, the ability to be useful inserted into the regional strategy. I have in mind the region of Balkans, of Black Sea, Danube, of the global powers. So that is why we consider that it is necessary, it was and still it is necessary to work together with the neighbors. We thought that Romania could be, bearing in mind its geopolitical assets, anchor and a crossing point and a connecting point of all these partnerships, which had to form some kind of a regional network. We also sought, Romania, to establish a regional strategic partnership with regional players, European players like Germany and Italy. We succeeded with Italy. Germany was hostile to this idea, as it was hostile to all ideas of having local Southeastern Europeans, Eastern Europeans networks of the local player. On the global level, I thought and we think that indeed we need a strategic partnership with the United States, but as much, if not more, at this point in time, we need a strategic partnership with China, as well as special relations with emerging powers in Asia, which is a process within what we call the Asian Center. And my last point, on this doctrine, we thought that Romania could be, and our region could be, a crossing point of the Silk Road, of the Amber Road, and of the Southern Road. I don't have time to enter into the details, but I wrote articles years ago about these three routes which should cross in our region. So I will stop here. Certainly, I could speak also about the present priorities in Romania's geopolitical vision. As I said, these are priorities of those who are thinking in a certain way. It's not the priority of the government. Our government, for the time being, has only one priority: to please the American ally. Full stop, period. That is all. And therefore, this is a very easy to be achieved policy. In fact, it's equal to have no policy, no foreign policy. But as far as I am concerned, maybe just half a minute, I promise. I think that we need, precisely because of that, the Romanization of the Romanian foreign policy, which doesn't mean an ethnical view, but a national interest of this policy. We need the re-examining, resetting our alliances, and I'm not going, and certainly this covers also NATO and the European Union, and certainly to revitalize our relations with the neighbors. Then, of course, we can go further with other. Also, we need to revisit the international political organization, United Nations, Council of Europe, etc., because there we need an updating and reinvention of them. The relations with the funding organization, which became some kind of oligarchy of the world. And certainly there are some other 2 points: the crisis of international law. We have to reject the concept of international order based on rules. We have the international law, which is based on consensus and not based on unilateral established rules. And because of this, concepts, we have a crisis of international law, and certainly, the reset of the international order. And I have already said that from this point of view, Romania is interested in a multipolar world, but not only in several poles, but in poles which are able to keep stability because they are in a symmetric relation of power. Thank you so much. I'm very sorry for keeping you maybe longer, but I hope that I covered at least few points. I provoked you enough. I hope that the technical thing will stop, so that you will not have the possibility to react. Okay. I'm joking, of course. But anyhow, I provide you with a written paper, and if you need it, you can be scandalized further by it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
For the very insightful comments about our relations. And now the floor is yours, Mr. John Alifietis.
Bună ziua, domnule ministru.
Bună ziua.
În România mi-e mai ușor, după 40 de ani de activare în România, e mai ușor. Eu vin cu o propunere care consider că în momentul de față este foarte, foarte actuală și răspunde la problema energetică, cum cunoașteți dumneavoastră, prezența Greciei, investițiilor Greciei în România în momentul energiei, în momentul de față, devine la primul loc. Și în urma acestei analize, având în vedere cele 8.000 de firme grecești, consideram că vine sprijinul poziției noastre și a domnului ambasador Bukamisas de a încerca încă o dată să ajungă la o colaborare și economică care o să fie benefică pentru ambele state. Δύο λόγια είπα ότι η σημερινή ευκαιρία που δίνεται στην Ελλάδα και στη Ρουμανία με την εξαγορά της ΔΕΗ από τη Ρουμανική ΕΝΕΡ που έκανε η αγορά ΕΝΕΡ, δίνεται ευκαιρία στις 8.000 ελληνικές επιχειρήσεις να ξεκινήσουν μια δραστηριότητα στο ενεργειακό και η Ελλάδα να είναι αυτή η οποία θα πρωτοστατήσει στις εξελίξεις του ενεργειακού στον χώρο της Βαλκανικής. Mulțumesc foarte mult.
Λοιπόν, να κάνουμε καμιά ερώτηση.
Yes, yes,
okay,
please. Some questions.
Mr. Dr. Severin, I enjoyed your far-reaching and I would say sweeping intervention on Romanian historical terms and current political issues. I would like to ask you, time and again, I am under the impression that you look, Romania, look, in my opinion, at least humble opinion, increasingly towards Poland and less so towards your Balkan and Balkan Black Sea neighbor. Is this a correct perception? And I have another question. We like or not, Montreux Convention is of eternal actuality. This is a milestone international treaty that defines the regime of the Straits. Time and again, there has been talk about revisiting and reviewing the Convention of Montreux. I have sensed in the past an uneasiness on the part of a part of Romanian diplomatic circles that this convention is too tight and that one should open the Straits to allow more flexibility for entering warships from outside the Black Sea. And I would like, and next to this, time and again, I have felt that there is an ambivalence before, in your position, not in your Severin's position, in the Romanian position between Ukraine, Russia, and Turkey. I mean, you, in the current circumstances, we feel that there is sort of a strategic connection between Turkey and Russia. And while you are anti-Russia, against, not just because of the Ukrainian affair, you are trying to have quite close ties with Turkey, in spite of the fact that Turkey is in an alliance of sorts with Russia. This is a second question of mine. And a point I would like to make for the benefit of our audience is that historically means at least after 1990, your relations to Ukraine before the invasion were a bit not very warm. You had the issue of the Insula Serpilor, the Greek Fidonisi, or Nissos of Achilleus, and there had been the judgment by the International Court of Justice in the year 2009, which were beneficial for Romania. You had some delimitation issues in the Bistroy Canal and some other difficulties, which are the minority difficulties as well. This is just an observation. But again, I ask you the two questions I mentioned above, and I would like to have the benefit of let's say, of your wisdom. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. May I answer?
Yes.
May I? Yeah. Okay. Now, number one, first question: Poland versus, let's say, Greece or Southeastern Europe. Yes. Yes. Okay. Okay. I must tell you that when we launched this doctrine of concentric circles, which I mentioned, we had in mind a line of alliances, or better said, a line of partnerships, which had to start in Gdansk and end in Alexandropolis. So it was not, let's say, disbalancing between the north and the south of Romania. Romania was in the middle of this line, of course. We had in mind a trilateral Poland, Ukraine, Romania, which had to go further south with Bulgaria, Romania, Bulgaria, Greece, and you know very well a lot of this about this trilateral, and also a back-to-back trilateral Romania, Bulgaria, Turkey, which were meant also to be able to keep stability and peace in the region. So we had all this. It was an only line. It was the Nordic segment would have been more or less meaningless from a Romanian perspective without the southern one. Later, unfortunately, the more our Romanian policy inclined towards submission to the American geopolitical agenda, and within this context, Poland became the most American, even more American than the Americans in the so-called, or within so-called New Europe, as it was named by Donald Rumsfeld. The relations, Romanian-American relation, Romanian-Polish relation, pushed Romania towards giving more importance to the northern segment of that front rather than to the southern one. So you are right to that extent that today, unlike yesterday, Romania is looking more Polish-wards rather than Balkan-wards. But what I should also tell you is that in Bucharest, even if this is not expressed openly, there is a fear that by becoming some kind of a proxy, of American proxy in the Eastern Europe, Poland, with its anti-Russian, Russophobic obsession, might drag Romania into a lot of troubles. And certainly Romania, it's clear, and everybody could understand that it's not interested to have in its proximity countries, local powers which are more powerful than is Romania. So therefore, I am sure that the Polish-Romanian relations would become more complex, to use a diplomatic word, in the near future. Likewise, I have to tell you that Romania is not interested in a strong, victorious Ukraine. I put it clearly. We are not interested in a victory of Ukraine. This is Romania is not interested. The government might make any policy. Certainly, we are neither interested in a defeated Ukraine, in a Ukraine which is not able to survive as an independent and sovereign state. But militaristic, non-democratic, I must say, and with a lot of economic difficulties, victorious Ukraine would be a problem to everybody, first and foremost to its neighbors. Certainly, we do not want to see that Romania, as well as the other countries in the region, is a frontline country in a war with Russia. Therefore, we are in favor of the normalization between the relations of Russia with so-called collective West. So this is, I'm not going to elaborate, time is short, but one has to keep this in mind. Well, I have tried because I have signed the treaty with Ukraine in 1997, basic political treaties with Ukraine. I have tried to keep the territorial integrity, not of Ukraine, but of the Soviet Republic of Ukraine, because that was Ukraine, and these were the borders of Ukraine in 1991. But that was, under condition of the Finlandization of Ukraine and the federalization of Ukraine, of the democratization of Ukraine. This didn't happen, and this didn't happen not only because of the Ukrainian bad behavior, but also because the United States wanted to transform Ukraine from a neutral country into from a bridge between the West and the East into an advanced post on the front with Russia. Now, the last question was, sorry.
About Montreux Convention.
Montreux Convention.
How you
About the Montreux Convention,
yourself
I share. It's very, very, very simple from my point of view. I share your point of view. The Montreux Convention has not to be changed in its substance. On the contrary, I think that if it's something to be changed, is to clarify, and to consolidate the rights of the riparian countries at the Black Sea, and also to find the answers to the possibility of having new channels, passing from the Black Sea into the Aegean Sea. These are also things to be considered before they become purely actual. So there are necessities for updating the Montreux Convention. It's an old one. There are necessities, but there are no necessities to change it completely. And I don't think, well, in a way, the European Union became, to that extent that European Union is some kind of confederation or federation, so it has its own legal personality. It became a riparian entity at the Black Sea. But we speak about the European Union, not about somebody else. And certainly, one has to, and the European Union should be represented by the proper riparian states or the states in near neighborhood like Greece, not by, let's say, Netherlands or Belgium. Well, this is something important, and I agree that there is some kind of some kind of oscillation, some kind of dilemmas, but these dilemmas are also the result of our closeness to the American policy. I understand that Americans want to bring their fleet there. I understand that the Brits want to bring their fleet there, but the presence of their fleet, to my mind, is not a guarantee for more peace. It's a guarantee for more tension and more war. So what we have to look forward is for economic cooperation in the Black Sea, if possible, to put the global powers should put their influence, political influence, in order to determine such an economic cooperation at the Black Sea, and not to determine escalation of the military presence in the Black Sea. Certainly for the riparians, the new, if there is a new convention on the Straits, should also make sure that we could keep a balance of power between the riparian states, because this balance of power is also undesirable. So these are things to be seen. We can connect this with some treaties which were conceived by the OECE in the past. So there are things to be done, but to keep an equilibrium of power and to keep the presence of the riparians and not to the excess of the others. For the rest, the policies are as they are, and certainly we think that if we can have good relations with Turkey, this could help us to have good relations with Russia, which is and the other way around. And if we have good relations with them, we can also contribute to a better situation, geopolitical situation in the Balkans. So this is more complex, I would say. But as far as the Montreal Convention, I think that my answer was quite clear. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Severin. Thank you. We were left with a little bit of wanting more from Mr. Alfieri, but maybe in another meeting we will be glad to hear your views about the actual, business situation in Romania. How can Greece be more active there? That concludes our session. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, and thank you to the technical support.